Hola amigos, hoy vamos a hablar del pretérito, or the preterite tense of regular verbs. The preterite tense is used to talk about actions that were completed in the past. For instance, Neil Armstrong landed on the moon in 1969. Or, the cow jumped over the moon. Both landed and jumped implies that the actions were completed in the past. A review of the endings for AR, ER, and IR endings in the preterite tense can be found in your textbook on Página 100. Let's review the verb endings one by one, starting with AR verbs. The ending for the yo form is e. The to form, haste. The él, ella, usted form, o. The nosotros form, hamos. Hastáis for vosotros. And finally, arron for the ellos, ellas, ustedes form. Please take note that e and o of the yo and él, ella, usted form have accents. This is very important. Now for the ER and IR preterite endings. Iste, yo, imos, isteis, and ieron. Now let's practice. Let's start with a new verb of this chapter, comprar, which means to buy. Like all verbs, let's start with the infinitive and cross off the AR, ER, or IR. Then we simply attach our endings. Compré, I bought. Compraste, you bought. Compró, compramos. Comprasteis y compraron. Te toca a ti. Take a minute now to practice the conjugations of another verb in this chapter, gastar. Gastar quiere decir to spend. Hit pause and press play again when you have your conjugations ready. And here you have it. Repeat after me. Gasté, gastaste, gastó, gastamos, gastasteis, gastaron. Did you remember your accents on gasté and gastó? Muy bien. But we're not done yet. You may be wondering, what happens to stem-changing verbs in the preterite tense? Well, hay buenas noticias, good news. AR and ER stem-changing verbs do not stem-change in the preterite. This is not the case for IR verbs, but we'll talk about that later. Let's take the verb probarse. Probarse quiere decir to try on. In the present tense, the O changes to a UE. So the yo form is me pruebo. Me pruebo la ropa antes de comprarla. I try on clothing before buying it. But in the preterite tense, the O to UE stem change does not occur. So if we wanted to instead say, I tried on the clothing before buying it, we get me probé la ropa antes de comprarla. Fácil, ¿sí? Something a little tricky that we do have to keep in mind is that the verbs ending in car, gar, and zar undergo a spelling change in the yo form in the preterite tense. For verbs ending in gar, the C changes to a QU. Let's take a look at the verb buscar, which means to search or look for. Conjugated normally, the yo form would be yo busqué. But notice in the verb buscar, we have a hard C sound, so busqué just won't work. But with the spelling change, the yo form becomes yo busqué, which maintains that hard C sound. With verbs ending in gar, the G changes to a GU. To see why we need this spelling change, let's look at the verb pagar, to pay. The yo form, conjugated normally in the preterite tense, would look like this, but it's pronounced yo pagué. But the verb is pagar. We have that hard G sound that we need to maintain. So we make the spelling change and we get yo pagué, I paid, and we maintain that hard G sound. And for the verbs ending in zar, the Z changes to a C. So in order to say, I ate lunch from the verb almorzar, we wouldn't use yo almorcé, but rather yo almorcé. Remember, the spelling change for these car, gar, zar verbs only happen in the yo form and none of the other forms. Look at the tu conjugations for these verbs. Tu buscaste, tu pagaste, tu almorzaste. As you can see, none of the spelling changes above happen in the tu form. Is this all sounding familiar to you? I hope so. Well, there's just two more irregular verbs that I want you to be aware of. Ver and dar. Although these are irregular, they're easy because they're both conjugated similarly, in that they take the form of the ER and IR verb endings, but just don't have any accents. Vi, viste, vio, vimos, visteis, vieron. Di, diste, dio, dimos, disteis, dieron. A practicar! Take some time now to practice your preterite conjugations and fill in the blanks with the correct form of the verb in the preterite tense. Press pause, and I will put up the answers in a few seconds. And there you have it. Take care to make sure that you have all of your accents in the right place. It's also important that you understand each of the sentences as you read through it. So if some of these verbs don't seem familiar to you, or you can't remember what they mean, it'd be a good idea to look them up. Well, that's it for today. Make sure you took good notes, as I will be checking them in tomorrow. And always feel free to play this video as many times as you need in order to review and master the concept. Gracias y nos vemos mañana.